Hello students. So today we are going to study about chapter 6 administrative system and architecture during the medieval age. I hope you all are ready with your textbooks. Now in the beginning of the chapter there is a mention of Lok Dairo. What is Lok Dairo? Lok Dairo basically is a public gathering where there are singers who sing the Gujarati folk songs. Now here there is a special mention of something called Palia. Palia basically are the songs sung in the memory of martyrs to pay the tribute to their lives. Martyr means shaheed. Martyrs are the one who die for their nation, for their dynasty, for their kingdom, right? So there is this Palia, which is a type of a song sung during the Lok Dairo. Now let's move further to the administrative system during the Rajput age. Now see, during the medieval times, there was no one king of the whole nation. At least not till the arrival of the slave dynasty and later on the Mughal dynasty. Till then, the kingdoms and the dynasties were divided. They were diverse. And there were big and small rulers all around. So Rajput kings were the ones who used to be the dominant ones during that time period. Now let's pay attention to the administrative system. Now see, as we all know that monarchy, the kingship is hereditary based. Like if I am a king, my son would become the next king. But it was not necessary that the eldest son would get to sit on the throne after the king. There in special conditions, there was also like the king used to decide whom. Now there were even times when the people and the ministers used to elect the king. There are the examples given of the king of Kashmir, King Yashasthara. He was selected and enthroned by the Brahmin group of Kashmir. And also in Gujarat, Kumarpal was selected as a successor by the Council of Ministers. Okay, let's move further. Now, we will study a little about administrative system in the villages. Now, the administrative system of the villages is quite similar to the one that we are having even today. Like it was a kind of a panchayati system where the head of the panchayat, today as we call him Sarpanch, at that time it was called Mukhi, and he was responsible for the protecting and delivering justice to the villagers. He was the final word. Whatever he said was the final verdict. And then still there were many cases where the Gram Sabha would also give verdict and punish the culprits. As mentioned in your textbook, even today at the village level, the Gram Panchayat or the elders of the Panchayat provide guidelines to the people. Now there is a small mention about how they used to collect money from the people at that time. So in the form of taxes. So it is mentioned that the 6th part of the cultivation was taken as the land revenue because it was believed that the whole land belonged to the king. So अगर आप किंग को पैसे नहीं देते हो तो आप क्या दे पाओगे? तो the 6th portion of the cultivation, as our country is highly dependent on the agriculture, so 6th portion was given to the king. Also there were the revenues or the taxes levied at the port and the octroi, at the places of octroi. Octroi means when you enter the village, uska entry point and exit point, that is called the octroi points. Landlords and zamindars also collected the taxes and paid tribute to the kings. Now let's move further to the literature. Now as we move further, we come to know about the literature during that time period, and there were many literary works that were composed in different languages such as Sanskrit, Prakrit, Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, etc. There was a great Sanskrit poet, Magh, composed the epic called Shishupal Vadha. This epic describes the killing of Shishupal by Shri Krishna. And similarly, there is one more epic by another poet, Shri Harsh, who wrote Naishad Charita, which is a story about Nal and Damayanti. Even songs by Radha and other gopis sung in the praise of Lord Krishna were presented in a lyrical manner. The biography of achievements of kings were also composed in a poetic manner. Hemchandracharya wrote Kumarpal Charita, based on the life of Solanki king of Gujarat Kumarpal, and a grammar book Siddhem Shabda Anushashan. As the title indicates, the name of King Siddharaj Jai Singh and Hemchandracharya are associated with the book. Now see, there was a huge contribution by the poets and the writers during the medieval period. One of the very important source of entertainment was literature. People were literate enough to understand all the stories and read the stories and read moral based stories about the king and the life of the king. So literature had an enormous value during that time period. Even the kings used to make their poets write the stories about their life, so that the king's name and whatever he did throughout his life was remembered till the times, till it was inscribed in the history. Okay, now second thing that was very important during that time was the Indian architecture. Here in this video I'm sharing with you the images of the temples of the temples of the medieval time, and you will see how glorious and beautiful these temples are. And at the time when technology was not this advanced, so it took months and years at a stretch to build whatever we see today. May it be the Thanjavur temple, may it be the Khajuraho temple, may it be the Modhera Sun temple, Konark temple. Each and every place has its importance. Also, the Ellora caves of Deccan have caves representing three religions: Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism. One among these is the Grand Kailash temple. The Elephanta caves near Mumbai have a beautiful three-faced sculpture of Lord Shiv. So there are so many things that, and if you see closely, pay attention to all the architectures of that time, all the sculptures of that time, you'll see how they are different from one another, and yet the idea behind each and every sculpture is the same. Even there is something called Gopuram. Now if you go to South India and if you visit any temple, you will see the outer gate of these temple has this huge tall Gopuram, in which there are so many sculptures of the gopis or the gods, Krishna. The beauty and the richness of India was so famous all around the world that there were so many kings and the rulers who came from far off land to loot our country. One such ruler was Muhammad Ghazni. He came to India and attacked India n number of times, and every time he looted a big chunk from the Indian kings and took it back to his kingdom. That was in Ghazni. It was a very unfortunate event whenever Ghazni used to come, and what wonders me the most is that kings of that time were not united enough to fight the invader, to fight the outsider, and to protect the country. So Muhammad Ghazni looted India very many times. When he came to Somnath, he absolutely ruined the temple of Somnath, and unfortunately no one was able to save the Shivalinga or the temple. Thankfully, after centuries, when Sri Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the Iron Man of India, he thought of re-establishing the temple, and thanks to him today the Somnath temple that we visit is glorious and beautiful. Moving further, change of the power at Delhi. Now see, Muhammad Ghazni had no interest in becoming the ruler of our country, and hence every time he plundered and looted our country, he went back to his Ghazna, his place of rule. Until when Shahabuddin Ghori established a strong rule in Ghazna and decided to also attack India. And after Shahabuddin Ghori, initially he was not successful. He was defeated by Queen Naika Devi of Ahilwad, Patan, and therefore he did not attack India for the coming 12 years. But finally, in the second attempt, he attacked Delhi and he was successful. Prithviraj Chauhan, one of the very, very great warrior, and the king of the olden times. He fought very bravely against Muhammad Ghori, but unfortunately in the second battle he was defeated, and finally Muhammad Ghori established his power in Delhi. After him, his slave Qutbuddin Aibak, he was also a commander-in-chief of Shahabuddin Ghori's army. So after Ghori, Qutbuddin Aibak became the king of Delhi, and finally this laid a strong foundation for the establishment of the slave dynasty. And after the slave dynasty came to an end, there were 5 dynasties that ruled during this time, and after the end of slave dynasty, Ibrahim Lodi was the last ruler of the slave dynasty, who was defeated by Babur. And when Babur arrived to India, there was an establishment of Delhi Sultanate, and that marked the beginning of the Mughal era. So now this brings an end to the chapter. I hope I was able to do the justice to whatever was mentioned in the textbook. If you have any doubt, or if you want to know anything more, kindly write your questions in the comment section. Till then, take care, bye-bye, and have a great life. And also, never forget the rulers, the kings, and the Rajputs who protected India from all the evils that came from the other side of the world. Take care, bye-bye.